Okay everyone, the first step that you want to do is you want to melt 2 tablespoons of butter. Alright, so just get the butter going really good. So the butter's nice and hot. So you can tell it's hot. I don't know if you can see the red, but trust me, it's there. You can at least see the steam coming, right? Okay. So what we want to do now is we want to add 1/3 cup of celery, which I've cut up here, and 1/3 cup of onion, which I've cut up here. And this was pretty much equivalent to 1 small onion and 2 stalks of celery. Now you can cut the ends off the celery and save it for another meal. That's actually really good in a soup. If you don't care for the leaves, you can just pull the leaves out, but keep them intact on the celery stalk. And over here are some green onions, which are for later, which that'll come in a minute. Alright, here we go. I'm going to add this into the pot. Okay, so we've added our celery and our onion to the pot, and you really just want to keep stirring it. You can let it actually sit a little bit, but you do want to stir it to make sure that it doesn't stick to the pan. This is a nonstick pan, but still, you don't want it to burn. Nothing is worse than trying to cook a really good meal that burns, right? Okay, so you just keep stirring this, and you want all of this to render down until it's tender and soft. So it's going to take a few minutes. Oh man, it already smells good. We haven't even gotten halfway through this recipe, and it already smells great. Okay, so a little bit of time has passed, and you may or may not be able to tell, but this is ready to go. If you can tell, I think you can see that okay. The onions are translucent. That's when you know it's tender and ready to be cooked with everything else. So just let that render down so it's really good and soft. Okay? The next thing we're going to do is add our potatoes. So to the pan goes 4 cups approximately of potatoes. And I also mentioned that there's 1 cup of chicken broth. Now, if you don't have chicken broth already made and all you have is a chicken, kind of like chicken granules, which is what I have here, chicken broth powder, you just take 1 cup of water, and you don't have to boil it because it's going, trust me, it's going to boil in this pot, and 1 tablespoon of the chicken broth powder. Add that to it. You're going to hear a really good sizzle. Just wait for it. Oh yeah. No, I don't think I love cooking at all. Alright, this is a very, very easy recipe to make. I like it because, you know, everything doesn't have to be precise, because what's going to happen is we're going to end up processing all of this and making it into a puree almost. So it really doesn't matter. I mean, make it as rustic and chunky as you want when you cut it up. Doesn't matter. It's all getting cooked down anyway. Alright, there's the bubbles. You see it? Okay, here goes the lid. Put the lid on and let that sucker just cook. I'm turning the heat down to medium. It's down to medium. There it is right there. Okay, as you can see, it's been about 12 minutes now since I let this sit. I stopped the video, let this sit, and I'm going to take the lid off to show you what the potatoes should look like. Alright, here we go. Okay. Alright, so this is what the potatoes should look like now. I'm going to pull this forward so you can see it a little bit better. But as you can see, it's like you're cooking mashed potatoes essentially. They're a really pretty golden color from the chicken broth powder that we added. They're very soft. The utensil that you're using to stir this should be able to mash right through it. And what we're going to do, this is the fun part, we're going to take these potatoes and we're going to puree them. Now you can either use a blender or food processor, okay? If you don't have either one, these potatoes will be cooked down so much that you'll be able just to take even a fork, just take a fork or the backside of a spoon and mash them down. See? These are rendering and mashing beautifully. There's no effort whatsoever. I'm barely tapping on this. And they're just melting. That's what you're looking for. Yes, the chicken broth did render down some. There's still a little bit of broth in there, but they're essentially infused with the potatoes, offering it a wonderful, awesome flavor. So I'm going to pause this, get these going into the blender, and I'm going to show you what to do next. I went ahead and pureed all the potatoes. It's probably best to do this in batches because I made the mistake of putting it all into one batch, and you're going to have a little bit of problem. Not much. But as you can see, this is going to look like cake batter. Okay? And it's totally normal. This is alright because we haven't added the milk to it yet. The milk's going to thin it out. Now, if you're lactose intolerant, you might be able to get away with adding something such as silk to it, the silk milk. I am not lactose intolerant, so I've never done that. But if by chance you happen to do that, or if you've done it already and it works, let me know. Leave a comment. Let other readers know. Next, we're going to add 2 cups of milk to this and whisk it thoroughly. So I'm going to pause this and get right back with you. Hey guys, I've added the 2 cups of milk to this, and I'm whisking thoroughly. And the reason why you want to do that is to get all of the milk rendered in with the potatoes. This is what's going to give it the soup consistency. You don't want it really thin, but you don't want it super thick either, where it's as though you're having cake batter. It's kind of like a chowder. It's got kind of like a, like a thick gravy type aspect to it. And what's even better is you can go ahead and leave the chunks in there. I'm seeing the chunks from the celery. Go ahead and leave it in there. If you like a little chunkier soup, just don't puree it all the way. And we, ladies and gentlemen, are almost done. Here I've added a handful of cheddar cheese. Now, you could probably add another cheese if you want a white cheese. You can add that just as well. Give it a really beautiful white color. But the main thing that you want to do is just go ahead and add cheese to this, as much or as little as you like. And again, the reason why you're adding cheese is to thicken this up. And give it some flavor, a little bit extra flavor. Essentially, this is like a baked potato soup. You got to look at it that way, okay? So whatever you want in your baked potato, you're going to want in this soup. Okay? So, we, ladies and gentlemen, are done. This is it. I'm going to serve this up and show you how delicious this can be. And this is the final result. This is Wisconsin potato cheese soup in a mug. Obviously, you can serve this in a bowl as well, but trust me, a mug goes a really, really long way because this is a thick, dense soup. You don't want to overdo it. You want to have just enough. This is also really good with some crusty bread or really beautiful green salad, little side green salad. To the soup I've added in the mug, I've added a little bit of yellow cheese, which is melted down really, really well. I've added some crumbled bacon, or in this case I've added bacon bits because we didn't have crumbled bacon. It's the same thing. And there's the green onions that came into play at the beginning of the talkie blog. And just grab yourself a spoonful, get a little bit of everything on that spoon, and we're going to take the first bite. Oh gosh, it's so good. Here it goes. That is so, so, so good. And the best part of it all is I did use Smart Balance butter, which is a lot healthier for you. Now granted, you can take a lot of different shortcuts in here. For example, the recipe I use actually calls for salt, but I omit the salt because there's more than enough salt in the chicken broth. And you really don't even miss it, unless you're a saltaholic, which then I suppose you could add it. I love pepper. The recipe also calls for white pepper. I don't add white pepper to it because white pepper has a distinct taste and it's a lot different than regular cracked black pepper. I do add cracked black pepper to it, but for this recipe I didn't. You essentially flavor it however you want. If you want sour cream on the top of your cup of Wisconsin potato cheese soup, help yourself. And thanks so much for joining me. Next time I'll be making something totally different, something totally delicious. Thanks again. Peace and love.